After saving Artist from his demon sword Asmodeus, Blade starts a new day at Rosewood Academy. He meets his two classmates at the training grounds, and they try to attack him but fail to touch him. Arness finds Blade's behavior rude as he doesn't draw his weapon, so she scolds him not to disrespect opponents. Blade notices that Arness has changed but can't pinpoint what's different about her. Even Leonard notices her new hairstyle, which Blade unfortunately missed. Arness quickly moves on and assigns Blade to befriend another classmate, Sophie. Blade observes that Sophie is often alone and wonders why. Arness explains that Sophie is introverted and obedient, always following commands without taking action on her own. Arness believes that if Blade befriends Sophie, she might open up to him. Blade talks to Sophie, honestly mentioning that Arness asked him to watch over her. Sophie asks if it's a command, but Blade clarifies it was more of a request. He genuinely wants to help Sophie train and not just because Arness asked him. Sophie doubts Blade's usefulness since she can only fight with her fists. Blade asks if she can use any weapons, but Sophie reveals she can't. Blade takes the initiative to teach her different fighting techniques, starting with how to use a long sword. Although Sophie usually only obeys commands, Blade assures her that he wants to help her as a friend, not give her commands. Sophie decides to become Blade's apprentice, as she has taken a liking to him. However, their training session is interrupted by the bell signaling the end of the practical training class for the day. Blade is upset that he couldn't teach Sophie anything but is pleased to see her smile for the first time. The next day, Blade resumes training with Sophie, helping her learn how to channel her power into her sword. Blade suggests she adds more power to her attack and advises her to think of the sword as an extension of her body, channeling magical energy into it. He demonstrates by using his own magical energy to cut through the armor effortlessly. Sophie grasps the concept and, after training all day, manages to channel her energy and cut the armor with ease. The training session ends successfully, and Blade calls it a day. Sophie asks Blade if she can now defeat Arness with her sword skills, but Blade doubts it since Arness is on a different level. Sophie drops the sword and restrains Blade with her fists, proving that bare-handed combat suits her better than wielding a sword. They sit together, and Blade feels a bit awkward, but Sophie lets him off the hook. Before leaving, she tells Blade that she wants him to teach her something else the next day. The story moves forward to the next day, where Blade meets with the headmaster, also known as the King. The King asks Blade about his school life, and Blade mentions that he has made good friends. The King is delighted to hear that, as he always pitted Blade for not having any friends, despite being the world's greatest hero. The King reveals that Sophie, although strong, is incomplete. He explains the artificial Great Hero Project, in which scientists tried to create beings as powerful as their greatest warrior. They experimented on a subject named Sophie using forbidden knowledge. They even duplicated the original human and performed countless experiments. Sophie's real name is Sophicia Fento, as she is the 12th incarnation of Sophie. Blade finds it hard to believe that someone could be so cruel, and even raises his fists against the King. The King calms him down, assuring him that the worst is over. He claims to have put an end to the experiments using his authority as royalty. The King took Sophie in, giving her the freedom she desired, but she never obeyed anyone's commands. Blade realizes how Sophie's life was stolen from her in the name of creating a great hero and blames himself for it. He decides to ensure that Sophie gets a normal life like everyone else, although he's unsure how. Blade seeks advice from his doctor about what's considered normal for kids his age. However, he leaves before hearing the answer and asks Leonard about love instead. Leonard's answer leads Blade to ask Claire and Jessica for more information about love. Claire explains that love involves going on dates. Blade rushes to Arness's room to learn about dates, but she mistakenly thinks he's asking her out and rejects him, stating they're not close enough. Blade goes to the girls' changing room and barges in, asking Sophie on a date, which she happily accepts. Blade's other girlfriends keep an eye on him to prevent any funny business. Blade and Sophie go on their date, engaging in various activities. Arness becomes jealous. The date comes to an end, and Blade wonders why he no longer senses his mysterious follower. He moves on and opens his book to see what's next, only to find out they've run out of time for their next task, which upsets him. However, Sophie reassures him and suggests they dash together to their next destination. After completing everything else swiftly, Blade and Sophie sit together by a fountain in the evening. Blade mentions that the fountain is legendary, although he doesn't understand why. Sophie smiles, realizing they have something in common. She thanks Blade for the fun day, causing him to blush. She asks why he went through all the trouble, and Blade explains that he considers her his friend and wants to see her happy. However, Sophie reveals that she doesn't see Blade as a friend because friends don't keep secrets from each other, hinting that she knows he's hiding something. Blade tries to make an excuse, but Sophie tells him not to worry because she has also kept a secret. She reveals that she's not an ordinary human but an incomplete test subject created to be an artificial hero. She demonstrates her powers, which include altering the laws of physics, manipulating gravity, and even stopping time briefly. Blade realizes how dangerous Sophie is and decides to help her. Sophie tells Blade about her being a mere experiment tool and a clone of someone else. In response, Blade reveals his own secret hesitantly, confessing that he used to be the great hero but no longer possesses powers. Sophie isn't surprised and had already suspected it due to their similarities. Blade apologizes for causing her to go through harsh experiments, and considers his powers a curse. He blames God and the people for forcing him into battles at a young age. Sophie consoles him, stating he should be proud of himself for saving millions of people. She takes pride in being created as his copy and expresses her desire to be more like him. Blade regains his composure and thanks Sophie for being a supportive friend, concluding their date. And thus, the episode came to a close. Thank you for watching this episode's of Recap. Don't forget to like and subscribe.